A man once sat in a room full of people and let another man insult him to his face, and he said nothing. No defense, no anger, no clever comeback. He just let the insult hang there in the silence, and he looked at the man who said it, calm, unbothered, almost curious. And something strange happened in that room. The silence got heavy. The people watching stopped feeling sorry for the man being insulted and started feeling deeply uncomfortable for the man doing the insulting. The insult, with no reaction to feed on, curdled in the air and turned back on the person who threw it. Within a few minutes, the loud one looked small and the quiet one looked untouchable. And not a single word had been fired back. That is the cold response. And it is the single most powerful thing Machiavelli understood about being disrespected, and almost the exact opposite of what you've been doing your whole life. Because here's what you do when someone disrespects you. You react, your face goes hot, your voice climbs, you defend yourself, you explain, you fire back, you lie awake that night rehearsing what you should have said. And every bit of that, every single bit, is a gift to the person who disrespected you. Let me show you why, and let me show you exactly what to do instead. Here's the thing nobody told you about disrespect. The disrespect itself isn't the moment you lose. The moment you lose is your reaction to it. Think about the last time someone got under your skin. The rude comment, the dismissive tone, the person who talked over you, took credit, made the little cutting joke at your expense. And think about what happened next. You reacted, and that reaction, the anger, the flustered defense, the comeback that came out wrong, that's the part you still cringe about. Not their rudeness, yours, because in that moment they pushed a button, and you lit up exactly the way they wanted, and you handed them the one thing they were fishing for. Proof that they got to you, right? You know that feeling, the replay, at 2 in the morning of the thing you wish you'd said, or wish you hadn't. Comment the word reacted if you've ever lost control in a moment like that, and given someone the exact reaction they were hunting for. I want to see how common this is, because it's nearly universal, and it's costing you power every single week. And by the end of this, you're going to have the 7 cold responses that flip it completely. Let me show you how to stop handing your power to the rudest person in the room. Move 1. Do not react in the moment. Here's the first move, and it's the foundation of all the others. When you are disrespected, do not respond in the moment. Not right away. The pause is the power. Here's why this works. And it's pure psychology. The person who disrespects you is, whether they know it or not, running a little test. They're checking whether they can move you, whether they have access to your emotional state, and the instant you react hot and fast, you answer the test for them. Yes, you have access. You can reach in and flip my switch anytime you want. That's what a fast reaction says. And once someone knows they can move you, they own a little piece of you forever. The pause breaks the test. When you don't react, when you go still and quiet and let a beat of silence pass, you send a different message entirely. That didn't reach me, and nothing unsettles a person who was trying to provoke you more than the discovery that the provocation didn't land. They were expecting fireworks. They get a calm, level gaze, and suddenly they're the one who feels exposed. And there's hard science under this, though you feel it without needing the science. In the first few seconds after you're provoked, your body floods with the chemistry of anger, and in that window you are, quite literally, not fully yourself. The part of you that makes good decisions goes offline, and a more primitive, reactive part takes over. Every terrible thing anyone has ever said in an argument was said in that window. If you can just get through the first few seconds without acting, the flood starts to recede, and the wiser part of you comes back online. The pause isn't just a power move against them. It's a way of waiting for your own better self to return before you do anything at all. There's a story about Abraham Lincoln that lives this perfectly. When he was furious at someone, he'd write them a letter. A brutal, scorching letter saying everything he felt. And then he would put it in a drawer and never send it. He got all the fire out, on paper, in private, and then he let the heat pass, and he responded, later, from a cool head, or didn't respond at all. He understood that the hot response feels satisfying for about 10 seconds and costs you for 10 years. The letter in the drawer is a discipline you can use tomorrow. So here's your job, the next time it happens. When someone disrespects you and you feel the heat rise, do nothing. Say nothing, let one full breath pass, just one, and in that breath you take back the control they were trying to steal. You respond when you're cold, or you don't respond at all. But you never, ever respond hot. What's the last thing you fired off in the heat of the moment that you wish you could take back? Comment it, even just the shape of it. The text, the email, the thing you said in the argument, naming it, is how you start to feel the cost of the hot reaction. So next time, you reach for the pause instead. Move 2, never let them see it landed. The second move builds on the first. Even when the disrespect does hurt, and sometimes it will, never let them see that it landed. This is not about pretending to be a robot. It's about a simple truth of power. The visible reaction is the reward. When someone insults you and watches your face fall, watches you get flustered, watches the hurt flash across your eyes, they have just been paid. That flicker of pain on your face is the entire point of what they did, whether they'd admit it or not. And when you hide it, when you keep your face calm and your voice level, even though something stung, you refuse to pay them. You starve the whole transaction. Think about how this plays out with the person in your life who knows exactly how to needle you. The little comment that isn't quite an insult, the tone, the joke with the edge on it. And they watch every time for the reaction, the eye roll, the sharp breath, the defensive reply. That reaction is what keeps them doing it. You are, without meaning to, rewarding the behavior every single time. The day you stop reacting is the day it stops being fun for them, because the prize disappears. And here's the deeper thing. A calm exterior, held long enough, starts to become a calm interior. When you stop performing the hurt, you often stop feeling as much of it. The reaction was feeding the wound as much as the insult was. Cut off the performance, and the wound gets smaller, faster. So here's your job. The next time something lands and stings, keep your face still. Keep your voice level. Don't give them the flicker. Not because you're suppressing yourself, but because that flicker was never for you. It was for them. And they haven't earned it. Who in your life knows exactly how to get under your skin? Comment who they are to you, not their name. The relative, the coworker, the one who always knows the button. Because the moment you can name them, you can start starving them of the reaction they feed on. Move 3, lower your voice, slow your pace. The third move is the physical one, and it's almost magic in how fast it works. When you are disrespected or attacked, and you do choose to respond, do the opposite of what your body wants. Lower your voice, slow down. Your body, in the heat of disrespect, wants to get loud and fast. Higher pitch, quicker words, more volume. That's the physiology of being triggered, and everyone in the room can read it instantly. A raised, rapid voice is the universal sign that someone got to you. It broadcasts, to everyone watching that you've lost your footing. So do the reverse on purpose. When you feel the heat, drop your voice lower than normal. Slow your words down, leave space between them. A low, slow, unhurried voice is the sound of a person completely in control, and it does something remarkable to a room. It makes everyone lean in. It makes the loud, fast, disrespectful person suddenly sound hysterical by comparison. You don't have to win the argument, you just have to be the calm one, because in any exchange, the calm one reads as the powerful one, and the agitated one reads as the one who's losing, regardless of who's actually right. This is why the most powerful people in any room are so often the quietest, the slowest to speak, the ones who never seem rushed. It's not an accident of personality, it's a signal of control, and control is the whole game. The person who can be attacked and respond in a voice slower and calmer than before has demonstrated something no argument could prove: that they cannot be moved, and there's a hidden second benefit. When you slow your voice down, you also slow your mind down. The physical act of speaking slowly and low actually pulls you out of the triggered state. You can't be fully hijacked by anger while deliberately speaking in a slow, low, measured voice. The body leads the mind, so this move isn't just a performance for the room. It's a tool for yourself. Slowing your voice is how you talk yourself back into control in real time, in front of everyone, while it looks like effortless composure. They think you're unbothered. Really, you're using your own voice to become unbothered, right there in the moment. So here's your job. The next time you feel yourself speeding up and getting louder, catch it, and deliberately do the opposite: slower, lower, quieter. Watch what it does to the other person and to everyone watching. It will feel unnatural the first time. It will also work the first time. Move 4. Ask, don't defend. The fourth move is the one that turns the whole thing around, and it takes real discipline, because it fights your deepest instinct. When someone disrespects you, your instinct is to defend, to explain yourself, to justify, and every word of defense is a small surrender, because defending yourself accepts the frame that you're the one who needs to explain. Instead of defending, ask. Turn the pressure back around with a calm, simple question. Someone makes a cutting remark about your work. The instinct is to defend the work. Instead, calm and level. What do you mean by that? Someone takes a dismissive shot at you in a group. Instead of shrinking or snapping, just, why would you say that? Not aggressive, genuinely calm, and watch what happens. The person who threw the disrespect now has to explain themselves out loud in front of everyone with no heat to hide behind. And almost always they can't. The cheap shot only works fast and unexamined. The moment it has to be justified in the cold light of a calm question, it falls apart, and the person who threw it looks petty and exposed. You've handed the discomfort back. You were supposed to be the one squirming, defending, explaining. Now they are, and you did it without raising your voice, without an insult of your own, with nothing but a quiet question and a steady look. This is Machiavelli at his most practical. Never fight on the ground your opponent chose. When someone disrespects you, the ground they chose is you defending yourself. Refuse it. Make them stand on their own words instead, and watch how quickly the ground gives way beneath them. So here's your job. Memorize 2 questions. What do you mean by that? And why would you say that? Say them slowly, calmly, with real curiosity the next time someone takes a shot. And then be quiet and let them fill the silence and watch the whole thing turn. Now let me tell you why Machiavelli, of all people, understood the cold response so deeply. because he didn't learn it from a position of strength. He learned it at the lowest, most humiliating moment of his entire life. You might picture the author of these ruthless rules as someone who was never on the receiving end. Someone who dished out the disrespect and never took it. The truth is the exact opposite. Machiavelli was, at one point, disrespected more completely than most of us will ever be. After he lost his position in Florence, he was accused, falsely, of plotting against the powerful men who had taken over. He was innocent. It didn't matter. He was arrested, thrown into a cell, and tortured. They strung him up by his arms, over and over, a torture designed to break both the body and the spirit, to make a man scream and confess to anything. And here's the part that matters: he didn't break, falsely accused, in agony, humiliated, with every reason to wail and beg and collapse. He held. He gave them nothing. He didn't confess to a crime he didn't commit. And in one of the most astonishing details in his whole story, while he was still imprisoned, still in danger, he wrote poems. Sardonic, controlled, almost darkly funny poems about his own situation, addressed to the very powerful men who held his life in their hands. That is the cold response taken to its absolute limit. Stripped of everything, in physical agony, disrespected by the entire machinery of the state, and instead of breaking, he stayed composed enough to write with wit. Think about what that tells you. The man who wrote the rules on staying cold under disrespect had them tested in the most extreme way a person can be tested, and they held. This isn't armchair theory from someone who never suffered. This is a survival technology, forged by a man in a cell, who discovered that the one thing his enemies could not take from him, no matter what they did to his body, was his refusal to give them the reaction they wanted. They could break his arms, they could not make him break, and that refusal was the last power he had, and it was enough. Comment the word composed if you've ever watched someone stay completely calm under an attack that would have destroyed you, and quietly wished you could do the same. Because you can. It's not a personality, it's a practice. And Machiavelli learned it in the worst place imaginable, so that you could learn it in an ordinary week. Move 5. Remove access quietly. The fifth move is the most powerful long-term response to disrespect, and it makes no noise at all. When someone repeatedly disrespects you, you don't announce it. You don't make a scene. You just quietly begin to remove your access, your energy, and your presence from their life. This is the cold response that actually changes things. Because here is what people who disrespect you are counting on. They are counting on continued access to you, your attention, your help, your emotional reactions, your presence in their orbit. They get to take shots at you and still keep all the benefits of having you around. And most people let them, because cutting access feels dramatic, and they don't want to seem petty or make it a whole thing. So don't make it a thing, just get quieter, slower to respond, less available, less invested. Present less of yourself, no announcement, no confrontation, no speech about how they've hurt you. Just a steady, calm withdrawal of the access they'd been taking for granted. And it lands harder than any confrontation ever could, because a confrontation gives them something to argue with. A quiet withdrawal gives them nothing to grab onto. They just slowly notice that the warmth is gone, that you're not quite there anymore, and there's nothing for them to fight because you never declared war. You just stopped showing up for people who treat you badly. Machiavelli understood that presence is a gift, and gifts can be withdrawn. The people who disrespect you are enjoying a privilege, your presence, that they have not earned. The cold response is to quietly, Without drama, stop extending the privilege. Let them feel the absence. Let them wonder. You owe no explanation for choosing where your energy goes. And notice why this works when confrontation doesn't. A confrontation, even a justified one, keeps you entangled with them. It's still a relationship, just a hostile one, and it still gives them your energy, your attention, your emotional investment. They'd often rather have your anger than your absence, because your anger still means they matter to you. The quiet withdrawal takes away the one thing they can't stand, proof that they've become irrelevant to you. Nothing lands harder on a person who disrespects you than discovering that you've simply stopped caring what they do. Not with a slam, with a shrug. So here's your job. Think of the one person who repeatedly disrespects you and still enjoys full access to your time and warmth. And this week, quietly, without any announcement, turn the dial down. Not off, necessarily, just down, and notice how much that quiet withdrawal shifts things that 100 confrontations never could. Where do you most need the cold response right now? Comment the situation, even in a few words. The workplace, the family dynamic, the friend who takes shots, because naming where you need it is the first step to using it there. Move 6. Respond to the pattern, not the moment. The 6th move is about wisdom, about zooming out, and it saves you enormous amounts of wasted energy. Stop responding to individual moments of disrespect and start responding to the pattern. Here's the trap most people fall into. They treat every single instance of disrespect as its own emergency, requiring its own reaction, its own confrontation, its own resolution. And they exhaust themselves fighting 100 small fires, one by one, forever. The person snaps at you, fire, you address it. The person makes a comment, fire, you address it again. And you never get anywhere because you're responding to symptoms, one at a time, while the underlying disease keeps generating new ones. The cold, clear response is to stop reacting to the individual moments and start seeing the pattern. Ask yourself, not how do I respond to this comment, but what is the pattern here, and what does the pattern tell me about this person and about what I need to do? Because one rude moment might be a bad day. A pattern is information. A pattern tells you who someone actually is, and once you see the pattern clearly, you stop needing to fight each instance. You just make one clear decision about the pattern, and then you act on that decision calmly, every time without fresh drama. This is the difference between someone who is constantly embroiled in conflicts and someone who seems serenely above it all. It's not that the calm person isn't disrespected, it's that they stopped treating each instance as a crisis, saw the pattern, made their decision about it, and now respond to everything from that settled place, instead of getting yanked around by every individual moment. They're not fighting 100 fires. They looked once, understood the pattern, and acted on the whole thing at once. So here's your job. Take the person or situation that's been disrespecting you in 100 small ways. And stop analyzing the individual moments. Zoom out, look at the pattern. What is it actually telling you? And then make one clear, calm decision about the pattern, instead of exhausting yourself reacting to every spark it throws off. And here's a good one, because your mind will only remember the times you lost it. Comment one time you actually did stay composed under an attack and it paid off. The moment you didn't take the bait, kept your cool, and watched the other person deflate. I want a whole comment section of those, because they're proof you already have this in you. You've done it before. This video is just about doing it on purpose. Move 7. Let time and their own behavior expose them. And here's the seventh move, the one that requires the most patience and delivers the most complete victory. Very often, the most powerful response to someone who disrespects you is to do nothing at all and let time and their own behavior expose them. Here's the thing about people who habitually disrespect others. They don't do it once, they do it as a way of moving through the world. And that means that if you simply stay calm, stay composed, keep doing good work, and wait, they will do to others exactly what they did to you. In public, repeatedly, until everyone sees it. You don't have to be the one who exposes them. You just have to be patient enough to let them expose themselves, which they will, because it's who they are. The person who reacts, who makes a scene, who fights back hard, often accidentally makes themselves look like the problem and gives the disrespecter a chance to play the victim. But the person who stays calm and simply keeps living well, while the disrespecter keeps disrespecting, eventually wins by sheer contrast. Over months, over a year, the pattern becomes undeniable to everyone, and the calm one is vindicated without ever having thrown a punch. Time is the ally of the composed and the enemy of the petty, but only if you're patient enough to let it work. This is the hardest one because it asks you to tolerate a period of feeling unavenged, of watching someone get away with it in the short term. But the short term is a trap. Play the long game. Keep your composure, keep your standards, keep building, and let the disrespectful person's own behavior, repeated over time, do the work that your angry reaction never could. The best revenge, as they say, is often just to become undeniable while they become obvious. And there's a quiet dignity in this that the hot reaction can never give you. When you fight fire with fire, you become a little more like the thing you're fighting. You get pulled down, coarsened, made smaller by the fight. But when you refuse to be dragged down, when you stay composed and keep your standards, and simply rise while they expose themselves, you protect not just your power, but your character. You get to the end of it not just victorious, but still someone you respect. The person who reacted got their moment of satisfaction and lost a piece of themselves. The person who stayed composed kept everything and won anyway. That's the version to aim for, not just winning without becoming someone you'd be ashamed of. So here's your job, in the situation that's eating at you, the one where you want so badly to react, to expose them, to make everyone see. Try the hardest thing instead. Wait, stay composed, keep being excellent, and trust that a person who disrespects people will, given enough time and rope, show everyone exactly who they are without any help from you. So let's bring the 7 cold responses together, because underneath them all is one truth that changes everything about how you handle disrespect. Don't react in the moment. Never let them see it landed. Lower your voice and slow down. Ask instead of defend. Remove access quietly. Respond to the pattern, not the moment. And let time expose them. And here's the whole thing in one sentence. Your reaction is the only power a disrespectful person actually has over you. And the cold response is simply the decision to stop handing it to them. Now here's where I have to challenge something you were probably taught, because it's the heart of this. You've been told that when someone disrespects you, you have to stand up for yourself. Fire back, show them they can't treat you that way. That silence is weakness, that not reacting means you're a doormat. That self-respect demands a response. And I understand why that feels true. The instinct to defend yourself is not wrong, but the method you were taught is exactly backwards. Because the hot reaction, the clapback, the visible anger doesn't show strength. It shows that they reached you, It proves they have access to your emotions. It drags you down onto their ground, into their fight, on their terms. The cold response is not weakness, and it is not swallowing it. It's the opposite. It's the refusal to be puppeted. It's keeping your hand on your own controls when someone else is desperately grabbing for them. That's not being a doormat. That's being the one person in the room who cannot be moved. Machiavelli learned this in a prison cell, in physical agony, falsely accused, with every reason to break. And he discovered that the composure itself was the power. They could do anything to him, except make him give them the reaction they wanted. And that one refusal, held under the worst pressure imaginable, was the thing that made him unbreakable. So the cold response, let me bring it home. Machiavelli survived that prison. An amnesty came, and he was released, broken in body but not in spirit, and sent off to his exile. And from that exile, composed, patient, refusing to wail about the injustice of it all, he wrote the books that made his name immortal, while the powerful men who tortured him faded into footnotes. He didn't get his revenge by reacting. He got it by outlasting, by staying composed and doing the work, and letting time carry his name past every person who ever disrespected him. The cold response played out over 500 years. And here's what I want you to take from it. The next time someone disrespects you, and you feel that hot rush, that urge to react, to defend, to fire back, I want you to remember that the reaction is the trap. It always was. The person disrespecting you is fishing for exactly that heat, and the moment you give it, they've won the only victory available to them. But the moment you go cold, calm, still, unbothered, you take the entire game away from them. There's nothing to grab, nothing to feed on, just a composed person who cannot be moved, and a rude person slowly realizing that their disrespect has nowhere to land. You don't need the perfect comeback. You never did. The comeback was always the amateur's move. The professional's move is the cold, level, unbothered nothing that says, more powerfully than any words could, that you are simply out of their reach. Tell me the one move you needed most, one word in the comments, and I read them. Pause, withdrawal, composure, whichever one named something you've been getting wrong. Mine, for years, was the very first one, not reacting in the moment, because I gave away so much power to people who did nothing but push a button and watch me light up. Not anymore. What's yours? Put it down below, and the next time someone tries to disrespect you, remember, you don't have to win the exchange. You just have to be the one who couldn't be moved.